Danny Cole had been through medical scans 100 times before. It was always the same routine. Walk in, stand still, let the machine do its work and walk out with a clearance stamp. He had never given it much thought. He was a cargo hauler, not a scientist. His job was to move things from one place to another across the stars. Medical checks were just another box to tick. The station was called 9, a large medical facility floating in the darkness of the frontier sector. Ships from dozens of species stopped here for supplies, repairs, and health clearances. Danny needed the clearance for a new shipping route. The company wanted him to haul goods through space, and they were particular about who they let in. So here he was, standing in a white room while an alien doctor ran scans over his body. The doctor was unnamed. He had a hard shell covering his body, 6 limbs, and compound eyes that caught the light in strange ways. Danny had worked with before. They were a careful species, always measuring and calculating. Doctor moved around Danny with quiet efficiency, pressing buttons on floating screens and watching numbers scroll past. Danny waited. He was good at waiting. Cargo runs taught you patience. Then Doctor stopped moving. His compound eyes fixed on one of the screens, and all 6 of his limbs went still. Danny noticed. He shifted his weight and looked at the doctor. Something wrong. Doctor did not answer immediately. He pressed more buttons. He ran the scan again. Then he ran it a 3rd time. Each time his body grew more tense. Danny felt a small knot forming in his stomach. He had never seen a look worried before. "Mr. Cole," Doctor said finally, his voice clicking through his translator. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly." "Sure," Danny said. "What is it?" "Why is your genetic material weaponized?" Danny blinked. He waited for the joke, but the doctor's eyes were completely serious. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your DNA," Doctor said, pointing at the screen. "It contains markers consistent with engineered biological weapons. Your cellular structure shows aggressive defensive mechanisms. Your immune system is designed to hunt and destroy foreign material. Your body produces acids and enzymes that can break down organic matter with extreme efficiency." He paused. "These are not natural traits, Mr. Cole. These are weapons." Danny stared at the doctor. He had no idea what to say. He was a cargo hauler from a small town in Kansas. He had never been to a military base. He had never worked for any government. He moved boxes for a living. "Doc, I think your machine is broken," Danny said. "I ran the scan 3 times, Doctor replied. "The results are consistent." "Then I don't know what to tell you. I'm just a regular guy." Doctor studied him with those compound eyes. Danny could not tell what the doctor was thinking, but he could see the fear there. There was afraid of him. That was a strange feeling. Danny had never scared anyone in his life. "I must report this to station security," Doctor said. "You will need to remain here until we can determine the nature of these modifications." "Modifications," Danny said, his voice rising. "I haven't been modified. This is just me. This is how I was born." But the doctor was already pressing buttons on his console. Within minutes, 2 station security officers appeared at the door. They were tall and thin with skin and large dark eyes. They looked at Danny like he was a bomb that might go off. "Please come with us, Mr. Cole," one of them said. Danny wanted to argue. He wanted to explain that this was all a mistake, but he could see that they would not listen. So he raised his hand slowly and let them lead him out of the medical room. They took him down a long corridor and put him in a small chamber with white walls and a single bed. The door sealed behind him with a soft click. He was alone. Danny sat on the bed and tried to make sense of what had just happened. Weaponized DNA? What did that even mean? He thought about his body, the body he had lived in for 32 years. It seemed normal to him. He got sick sometimes. He got hurt sometimes. He healed. That was just life. An hour passed. Then 2. Danny lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. He thought about Nora. She was his co-pilot and she was probably wondering where he was. They were supposed to leave this morning. As if answering his thoughts, a voice came through the intercom in his room. It was Nora, and she sounded angry. "Danny, what the hell is going on? They won't let me see you. They're saying something about a biological hazard. Are you sick?" Danny stood up and walked to the intercom panel. "I'm not sick, Nora. The doctor thinks there's something wrong with my DNA. He says it looks like a weapon." There was a long pause. "That's the thing I've ever heard." "I know, but they're not listening to me." "I'm going to find someone in charge," Nora said. "Just hang tight. I'll get this sorted out." The intercom clicked off. Danny sat back down on the bed. He looked at his hands, turning them over slowly. They looked the same as always. Rough from work, a small scar on his left thumb from a loading accident years ago. Just hands, human hands. But somewhere in the cells of those hands, according to Doctor, there was a weapon, something built to fight and destroy, something that scared aliens who had traveled across the stars. Danny did not understand. He was not a soldier. He was not a scientist. He was just Danny Cole from Kansas, and all he wanted was to pass his medical clearance and get back to work. But the galaxy, it seemed, had other plans for him. In the security office, Doctor was sending an urgent message to the Galactic Union Science Council. His report contained the scan results, his observations, and one simple question that he could not answer. How had humanity evolved to carry weapons in their very blood, and why did they not seem to know about it? The question would change everything. 3 days passed in the White Room. Danny ate the food they brought him, slept on the hard bed, and waited. Nora came to speak through the intercom twice a day. She told him that she was fighting for his release, but the station administrators were scared. They had never seen anything like his scan results, and they did not know what to do with him. On the 4th day, the door opened. Doctor stood there with 2 security officers. Behind them was a inexpensive robes. Danny guessed this was someone important. "Mr. Cole," they said, "I am administrator. I oversee this station. We have requested assistance from the Galactic Union Science Council regarding your situation. A specialist will arrive shortly to examine you further." Danny stood up slowly. "So I'm still not free to go?" "I am afraid not. The nature of your biological readings requires investigation. This is not a punishment, Mr. Cole. It is a precaution." Danny wanted to argue, but he was tired. 4 days in a small room had worn him down. He nodded and sat back on the bed. The door closed again. More hours passed. Then the door opened once more, and this time a human walked through it. She was a woman in her 40s with short hair and sharp eyes. She wore a white coat with a Galactic Union badge on the shoulder. Danny felt something loosen in his chest at the sight of another human face. "Danny Cole," she said. "That's me. I'm Doctor. I'm with the Union Research Division. I've been studying human biology in relation to other species for 15 years. She pulled up a floating screen and looked at the data. "I've reviewed your scans. I can see why they're concerned." "Can you tell them I'm not a weapon?" Danny asked. Doctor smiled, but it was a sad smile. "The problem, Mr. Cole, is that you are, or rather your body is, but not in the way they think." She sat down on the small chair in the corner of the room. Danny waited for her to explain. "Most species in the Galactic Union evolved on what we call Class 3 to Class 5 worlds," Doctor said. "These are stable planets with mild climates, few predators, and abundant food. Evolution on those worlds was gentle. Survival was not particularly difficult, so their bodies never needed to develop strong defenses." "And Earth?" Danny asked. "Earth is a Class 12. Danny had heard the term before. Alien traders sometimes used it when talking about human origins. He had always thought they were joking. "Our planet tried to kill us every single day for millions of years," Doctor continued. "Predators, diseases, extreme temperatures, toxic plants, venomous animals, natural disasters. Everything on Earth was competing to survive, and humans had to compete harder than anything else. Our bodies evolved to fight." He pointed at the screen showing Danny's cellular data. "Your immune system doesn't just defend against disease. It actively hunts and destroys foreign organisms. Your white blood cells are like tiny soldiers that search for threats and kill them. When you get an infection, your body raises its temperature to cook the invaders alive. Your stomach acid is strong enough to break down almost any organic material. Your cells can repair damage that would be fatal to most species." Danny listened. He had never thought about his body this way. These things just seemed normal to him. "The aliens look at this data and they see bioweapon signatures," Doctor said. "Because in their experience, the only way to get biology this aggressive is through engineering. They cannot imagine that a species could evolve this way naturally. But we did. We had no choice." "So how do we convince them?" Danny asked. "I'll present the evidence to the station administrators and the union representative. I'll show them comparative biology data from Earth. Once they understand that this is natural human evolution, not military modification, they should release you." "Should?" Doctor sighed. "Some species are going to be scared of us no matter what. The truth is, Danny, Humans are terrifying by galactic standards. We just never realized it because we had nothing to compare ourselves to. She stood up and walked to the door. I'll do my best, try to get some rest. The door closed behind her. Danny lay back on the bed and thought about what she had said. His home, the blue and green planet he had grown up on, was the place where he had played as a child, where he had learned to ride a bike and watch sunsets over Kansas wheat fields, was one of the most dangerous environments in the known galaxy. And his body, the body he had never given much thought to, was a weapon forged by that world. Every cell, every system, every process was designed to fight and survive. He had carried this weapon his whole life without knowing it. In the conference chamber, Doctor was setting up her presentation. Administrator sat at the head of the table, his face unreadable. Doctor stood near the wall, his compound eyes fixed on the screens. A holographic image of Earth rotated slowly in the center of the room. The planet you see here, Doctor began, is the human. It is classified as a Class 12 world, which means it presents extreme survival challenges across multiple categories. Predation, disease, climate, geology, and atmospheric conditions all fall within the most dangerous parameters recorded. She changed the display to show a comparison chart. On one side was Earth data. On the other was data from the and 5 other Union species. As you can see, Earth's environmental hostility rating is 4 to 6 times higher than any other represented in the Galactic Union. Human evolution occurred under constant existential pressure. Our biology reflects that pressure. Administrator leaned forward. You are saying that no engineering was involved, that humans simply evolved these traits. Correct. Over millions of years through natural selection. The individuals who survived were the ones whose bodies fought hardest. Those traits passed to the next generation. Over time, humanity became what we are today. Doctor spoke up, but the aggression levels in human cellular response exceed anything in our medical databases. How can nature produce such results? Doctor turned to face him. Because nature on Earth is not kind, Doctor, it is a constant war, and humans won that war. The room fell silent. The alien administrators looked at each other. Doctor could see the fear in their eyes, but also something else, something like respect. I recommend releasing Mr. Cole immediately, Doctor said. He has committed no crime. He is simply human. Administrator nodded slowly. I will consider your recommendation. We will reconvene in 1 hour. Doctor gathered her materials and left the room. She hoped her words had been enough, but she knew that for many species in the galaxy, the truth about humanity would take time to accept. They had evolved alongside monsters, and they had become something stronger than monsters. That was not easy for anyone to understand. Conference chamber was filled now. Word had spread through 9 about the human in detention, and representatives from a dozen species had gathered to hear Doctor's full presentation. Danny watched from a screen in his room as the meeting began. They had given him access to the broadcast, which he supposed was a good sign. A new figure had arrived on the station that morning. Her name was Captain Sora Wells, and she served as a diplomatic for the Human Coalition. She was a tall woman with brown skin and calm eyes. She stood near Doctor, ready to handle any political problems that might arise. At the head of the table sat a new face as well. Counselor was an elderly member of a peaceful herbivore species known for their wisdom and fairness. He had been sent by the Galactic Union to oversee the situation. His fur was white with age, and his large eyes carried centuries of experience. Doctor, Counselor said, please proceed with your presentation. The Council is eager to understand this matter. Doctor nodded and activated the holographic display. An image of the human body appeared, glowing with highlighted systems and processes. What I'm about to show you, she began, is a detailed breakdown of human biology from the perspective of galactic medical standards. I want to emphasize that everything you will see is natural. It was not designed or engineered. It evolved over millions of years on a planet that never stopped trying to kill us. She zoomed in on the circulatory system. Human blood contains several types of cells. The red cells carry oxygen, but the white cells are what concern most of you. These cells are hunters. When a foreign organism enters the human body, white blood cells detect it, track it, and destroy it. They do not wait for instructions. They act independently, like soldiers on patrol. The display showed an animation of white blood cells attacking bacteria. The violence of it was clear. The cells surrounded the invaders and consumed them. This is considered highly aggressive by galactic medical standards, Doctor continued. Most species have passive immune systems that simply create barriers against disease. Human immune systems go on the offensive. Doctor raised a limb. What happens when the immune system encounters something it cannot destroy? It remembers, Doctor said. Human immune systems keep records of every threat they have ever faced. If that threat returns, the response is faster and stronger. This is why humans can survive diseases that would kill them on first exposure. Their bodies learn and adapt. The room was quiet. Doctor changed the display to show human skin cells. Human skin is another defensive system. It is tough, flexible, and regenerates quickly. Humans can survive wounds that would be fatal to most species. They can lose blood, suffer broken bones, and sustain organ damage while remaining conscious and functional. Their bodies prioritize survival above all else. She showed another animation. This one depicted a human body responding to injury, blood clotting, tissue regenerating, inflammation fighting infection. It looked like a small war happening inside the flesh. Perhaps most concerning to many of you is the human fever response, Doctor said. When infected by certain pathogens, the human body deliberately raises its internal temperature. This can damage the human's own tissues, but it damages the invading organisms more. Humans will literally cook themselves to kill a disease. Counselor leaned forward. This seems like a self-destructive response. It is, Doctor agreed. But it works. Humans evolved on a world where the alternative to extreme measures was death. They learned to accept short-term harm for long-term survival. Captain Sara Wells stepped forward. I want to address a question that I know many of you have. Why did humanity not disclose these biological traits when we joined the Galactic Union? The room waited. The answer is simple, Captain Wells said. We did not know they were unusual. We assumed all species had similar biology. We had no frame of reference. To us, getting sick, fighting off infection, healing from wounds, these things are just part of life. We never considered that other species might work differently. Danny watched from his room. He understood now. His whole life he had taken his body for granted. He got cut, he healed. He got sick, he recovered. It never occurred to him that these simple facts might be remarkable. Counselor spoke slowly. So humanity genuinely did not realize that their biology was exceptional by galactic standards. Correct, Captain Wells said. We are as surprised by your reaction as you are by our scans. A murmur passed through the room. Doctor could see attitudes shifting. The fear was still there, but it was mixing with something else. Curiosity, understanding. Doctor stood up. His compound eyes were fixed on the display. I detained Mr. Cole because I believed he was carrying engineered weapons in his body. I treated him like a threat. I see now that I was wrong. He is not a threat. He is simply the product of his world, as we are all products of our worlds. He turned to face Administrator. I request that Mr. Cole be released immediately. I will personally apologize to him for the misunderstanding. Administrator looked at Counselor. The old nodded slowly. Very well, the Administrator said. Mr. Cole will be released. His medical clearance will be approved. This matter is closed. Danny felt relief wash over him. It was over. He could finally leave this white room and get back to his ship. But Doctor was not finished. Before we conclude, she said, I want to leave you with one thought. Humans did not choose to be this way. We did not ask to evolve on a. We did not want to become biological weapons. We simply survived. And in surviving, we became something that the galaxy has never seen before. She looked around the room at the alien faces watching her. We are not your enemies. We are your allies. And now that you understand what we are, perhaps you can also understand what we can offer. When danger comes, when threats arise, humans will stand and fight. Not because we want to, but because fighting is what our bodies were built to do. We cannot help it. It is in our very cells. The room was silent. Then Counselor rose to his feet, which among them was a sign of deep respect. Doctor, he said, on behalf of the Galactic Union Science Council, I thank you for this education. Humanity is indeed remarkable. We look forward to learning more about your species in the years to come. The meeting ended. Danny watched his door slide open. Nora was standing there with a grin on her face. Come on, she said. Let's get out of here before they change their minds. Danny laughed and followed her out. But as he walked through the corridors of 9, he noticed something different. The aliens who passed him looked at him with new eyes. There was still some fear there, but also something that looked like respect. He was just Danny Cole from Kansas, but now the galaxy knew what that meant. Danny and Nora were halfway to the docking bay when the alarm started. The sound was sharp and loud, cutting through the air like a blade. Red lights began flashing along the corridors. Around them, aliens of every species stopped moving, their faces showing confusion and fear. "What's happening?" Nora asked. Before Danny could answer, a voice came over the station speakers. It was Administrator, and his calm tone was gone. "Attention all personnel. 9 is under attack. Raiders have breached the outer defenses. All civilians proceed to emergency shelters immediately. This is not a drill." Raiders? Danny had heard stories about them. They were a brutal species that attacked medical stations for supplies, equipment, and prisoners. They sold what they stole on black markets across the frontier. No one knew exactly where they came from, but everyone knew to fear them. The corridor filled with panic. Aliens ran in every direction, pushing and shoving to reach the shelters. Danny grabbed Nora's arm and pulled her against the wall to avoid being trampled. "We need to get to the ship," Nora said. "The docking bay is probably their first target," Danny replied. "We'll never make it." An explosion shook the station. The lights flickered. Somewhere nearby, a child was crying. Danny looked around. He saw families huddled together, medical staff trying to direct people to safety, and security officers running toward the outer sections with weapons drawn. Everyone was scared. Everyone was running. But Danny did not feel like running. Something deep inside him, something old and primal, was waking up. His heart beat faster. His muscles tensed. His senses sharpened. He did not understand it, but he felt ready. "Danny," Nora said, watching his face change. "What are you doing?" "I don't know yet," he said, "but I can't just hide." He turned and moved toward the sound of fighting. Nora called after him, but he kept going. He did not have a weapon. He did not have a plan. He only had the body he was born with, the body that the galaxy now knew was built for survival. He found them in the medical wing. A group of raiders had broken through a security door and were dragging prisoners out of the rooms. They were large creatures, covered in thick scales the color of rust. Their eyes were small and cruel, and their hands ended in sharp claws. Danny counted 6 of them, all armed with energy weapons. Behind them, huddled against the wall, were a dozen civilians. Danny recognized Doctor among them. The Doctor was shielding a smaller alien with his body, trying to protect them from the raiders. One of them saw Danny standing in the doorway. It raised its weapon and fired. Danny moved. He did not think about it. His body simply acted, throwing itself to the side as the energy bolt scorched the wall behind him. He hit the ground, rolled, and came up running. The fired again. Danny felt the heat of the bolt pass by his face. He kept moving, closing the distance between them. His feet pounded against the floor. His lungs burned, but he did not stop. He hit the at full speed. They went down together, crashing into a medical cart and scattering equipment everywhere. Danny's fist found the soft spot beneath the creature's jaw and struck hard. The head snapped back. Danny hit it again, and again. The other raiders turned to face him, but before they could fire, a new sound filled the room. More humans had arrived. Grant was a petty officer who served as a security consultant on visiting ships. He was a big man with a shaved head and scars on his arms. He had found 2 other humans in the chaos and armed them with weapons taken from fallen security officers. Now they poured into the medical wing with guns blazing. The fight was brutal and fast. Energy bolts flew through the air. Bodies hit the floor. Danny grabbed a metal tray and used it as a shield, deflecting a shot that would have taken his head off. He threw the tray at the nearest and followed it with his body, tackling the creature to the ground. A claw raked across Danny's side. He felt the pain, sharp and hot. Blood began to soak through his shirt, but he did not stop. He could not stop. His body would not let him. He saw Doctor watching him from behind an overturned bed. His compound eyes were wide with shock. Danny knew what he must look like, covered in blood, fighting like an animal, but there was no time to explain. Grant finished the last raider with a shot to the chest. The room went quiet except for the sound of heavy breathing. "You okay?" asked, walking over to Danny. Danny looked down at his wound. The bleeding was already slowing. His body was doing what it had always done, what it had evolved to do over millions of years, fighting back, healing, surviving. "I'll live," Danny said. But the fight was not over. Outside, they could hear more weapons fire. They had taken prisoners and were retreating to their ship. "They have more hostages," said, "probably going to sell them." Danny looked at the civilians they had saved. Then he looked at the door leading to the docking bays. Somewhere out there, more innocent people were being dragged away. Doctor stepped forward. His limbs were shaking, but his voice was steady. "They took several of my staff. I saw them being carried toward Bay 7. Danny met the doctor's eyes. 4 days ago, this alien had looked at him like he was a monster. Now there was something different in those compound eyes. Trust. "We'll get them back," Danny said. Nodded, he checked his weapon and moved toward the door. "Then let's go." Danny followed. His side screamed with pain. His body was tired, but deep in his cells, in the very DNA that had caused all this trouble, something ancient was still burning. The will to fight, the refusal to quit, the determination that had kept humanity alive through ice ages and plagues and wars. He was not a soldier. He was not a hero. He was just Danny Cole from Kansas. But right now, that was enough. They moved through the station like ghosts, following the sounds of combat toward Bay 7. Behind them, Doctor watched them go. The doctor understood now what those scans had really shown him. Human DNA was not a weapon. It was a promise. A promise that no matter how dark things got, no matter how impossible the odds seemed, humans would keep fighting. They would bleed and hurt and fall down, but they would get back up. They would never stop getting back up. That was what it meant to evolve on it. That was what it meant to be human. The Raider ship was docked at Bay 7, its engines already warming for departure. Danny and crouched behind a stack of cargo containers, watching the enemy load their prisoners aboard. Through the ship's open hatch, they could see about 15 captives bound together with energy cuffs. Among them were 2 of Doctor's medical staff and several civilian traders. "Security said the Raiders used some kind of biotoxin when they breached," said quietly. "Most species can't survive more than a few minutes of exposure. Their ship is probably full of the stuff." Danny nodded. He remembered what Doctor had said about human biology. Their bodies were built to fight, even toxins. "Then we better move fast," Danny said. Looked at him. "You sure about this? You're already hurt." Danny touched his side. The wound had closed, though it still ached. His shirt was stiff with dried blood, but he could move. He could fight. That was all that mattered. "I'm sure." They waited until the last guard turned away, then broke from cover. Danny ran low and fast, his feet barely making sound on the metal floor, was right behind him. They reached the ship's ramp and slipped inside before anyone saw them. The interior of the vessel was dark and hot. The air smelled wrong, thick with something chemical and bitter. Danny felt it hit his lungs immediately. His throat tightened. His eyes watered, but he kept breathing. His body would handle it. Coughed beside him. "That's the toxin. We don't have much time." They moved through the ship's corridor, checking each room as they passed. The prisoners were being held in the cargo bay at the rear. Danny could hear voices ahead, voices speaking in their harsh, clicking language. He felt his body responding to the poison in the air. His temperature was rising. His immune system was activating, hunting the foreign particles in his bloodstream and destroying them. It hurt, like a fever coming on fast, but he pushed through it. They reached the cargo bay door, held up 3 fingers, 2, 1. Danny kicked the door open. There were 4 guards inside. They turned in surprise, reaching for their weapons, but Danny was already moving. He hit the first guard before it could draw, driving his shoulder into its chest and slamming it against the wall. Shot the second guard, then the third. The fourth managed to fire once, the bolt grazing Danny's arm before Danny grabbed its weapon hand and twisted. The screamed as its wrist broke. Danny took the weapon and fired point blank. "Silence." The prisoners stared at them with wide eyes. Danny walked over and began removing their cuffs. "It's okay. We're getting you out of here." A medical assistant grabbed Danny's arm. "There are more of them." The warlord went to the control room with 3 guards. The warlord asked. "Their leader," he called himself. Checked his weapons charge. "I'll handle him. You get these people off the ship." Danny shook his head. "You can't take 4 of them alone." "I can try." Was already moving toward the control room. "Get them to safety. That's an order." Danny wanted to argue, but the prisoners needed help now. He turned and began leading them toward the exit. The toxin in the air was getting thicker. Several of the aliens were struggling to breathe. Danny put his arm around a small child and helped carry her forward. They were almost to the ramp when Warlord appeared. He was larger than the other, his scales darker and from countless battles. In one clawed hand, he held a blade that crackled with energy. In the other, he dragged by the neck. "Human," said, his voice grinding through the translator. "I wondered why my soldiers were dying. Now I understand. You are the—" Danny set the child down gently and stepped forward. "Let him go." Laughed, a horrible sound like metal scraping metal. "Your friend fought well. He killed 2 of my guards, but he is weak now. The poison has broken him." Danny looked at. The man was barely conscious, his breathing shallow. But his eyes found Danny's and there was still fire in them. Still fight. "Humans do not break," Danny said. He charged. Swung the blade. Danny dove under it, feeling the energy crackle past his head. He came up inside the warlord's guard and drove his fist into the soft tissue beneath his arm, roared and dropped, turning to face Danny with both hands free. They fought in the narrow corridor, was bigger, stronger, and armed, but Danny was faster and would not stop. Every time the blade cut him, he kept fighting. Every time a blow knocked him down, he got back up. His body screamed with pain, but deeper than the pain was something else. The ancient programming in his cells that said survive, fight, never surrender. Began to tire. His swings grew slower. His breathing became heavy. He was not built for this kind of endurance. His world had never demanded it. Danny saw his opening. He caught the warlord's blade arm and twisted, putting all his weight into the motion. The weapon fell. Danny caught it and drove it into his chest. The warlord looked down at the blade in his body. Then he looked at Danny with something that might have been respect. He said again, and then he fell. Danny stood over the body, breathing hard. His hands were shaking. His whole body was shaking, but he was alive. Struggled to his feet. "Nice work, cargo hauler." "You too, soldier." They helped each other to the ramp. Station security was arriving now, flooding the docking bay with officers and medical teams. Doctor was among them, rushing forward with supplies and assistance. The doctor reached Danny and immediately began scanning his wounds. "You need treatment. The toxin levels in your blood are extremely high." "I feel fine," Danny said. Doctor looked at his scanner, then looked at Danny. "Your body is actively destroying the toxin. I can watch it happening in real time. Your cells are fighting the poison and winning." Danny shrugged. "That's what they do." The doctor was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke softly. "I owe you an apology, Mr. Cole. When I first saw your scans, I was afraid of you. I thought you were a weapon disguised as a person. Now I understand. You are not a weapon. You are a survivor. Your entire species are survivors, and today you used that survival instinct to save my people." Danny did not know what to say, so he just nodded. 2 weeks later, Danny and Nora finally got their cargo clearance. Their ship left 9 on a clear morning, heading toward space with a hold full of medical supplies. Before they departed, Doctor had given Danny a small data chip. "I am writing a new medical paper," the doctor had said. "I thought you might want to read it." Danny plugged the chip into the ship's computer during the first jump. The paper was called The Accidental Weapons, Understanding Humanity's Evolutionary Legacy. It described human biology in detail, but the tone was different from the fear-filled report that had started all this trouble. This paper spoke of humans with wonder, not alarm. It called them remarkable, not dangerous. Nora looked over his shoulder as he read. "Looks like you're famous now." "I didn't do anything special," Danny said. "I just did what anyone would do." Nora smiled. "That's the point, Danny. What's normal for us is incredible to everyone else." Danny thought about that as their ship flew through the stars. He thought about Kansas, about Earth, about the long, brutal history that had made humanity what it was. They had not asked to be weapons. They had just learned to survive. And maybe, in a galaxy full of gentle species from gentle worlds, that was exactly what everyone needed. Someone who would stand up when others could not. Someone who would fight when others could not. Someone who would never, ever stop trying. Danny Cole smiled and set course for the next port. Just a cargo hauler from a just human.